Good afternoon. My name's Mindy Mozenter, and Lorri and I are lucky enough to work with families like yours, that people with dementia that are either looking for a place or thinking of making a plan to look for a community to move into. As you know, the disease, if you've seen one dementia, you've seen one dementia. So everyone looks different. And because of that, every family's needs are going to be different. So there's no there's no silver bullet that says, here's what you do. And we as consultants would never ever tell a family, we know the right answer for you right off the bat. Here's how the plan is, and here's what you should do. Each family makes a different plan because it's important to the family to make the plan that works for your family. So, how do you start thinking about this? So, you think about, here's my family member with a progressive disease. Do I start today to plan? Do I think it's time to move in a week or two? Is there a situation that would tell me that it is now time? So there is a line in the sand for every person to say, I can do this till now. It could be, some people said the first time that Depends got delivered to my door, I was uncomfortable. It could be something as severe as they walked down and were on the Schuylkill Expressway. That was the line in the sand. So there is from 0 to 60 in reasons that people would need to move into a community. And everybody's journey is different, and it's your journey. It is not our journey to tell you what to do. It is your journey. The part of the journey we like to talk about is make a plan. I don't know what the plan is. You might not know what the plan is today, but to think really long and hard about it. Because if you are the family member and you are the caregiver and you're aging at the same rate that the other person's aging, and God forbid something happened to you, or not even that, say you needed to go in for have a cataract surgery, which is normal aging, what's going to happen to the person that you leave at home? How do you mind take care of them? Who is the family member going to move in to help for a couple of days? Do you have a caregiver coming into the house? Just a plan, because if you don't have a plan, and a crisis does occur in any kind of way, if you don't have a plan, bad choices are made in times of crisis. And to avoid having a crisis decision, you need to plan. We are a part of a plan. If you want to talk to us about a plan, we can help you lay out a plan. Some of the families have heard me say, you're not ready to move yet. And that is true. You're not, but have a plan. And that's very, very important, really important to how we work. Right, Lorri? We really feel like it's your decision.
No question about it, and I guess I would just add that, um, you as the care I assume most of the people on here are caregivers, and, I just want to applaud you for your caregiving, and, also Mindy and I have concern for caregivers and how much of a toll you don't even know it's taking on you emotionally, physically, whatever, so just to allow yourself to get the support because, you need the support first before we Mindy and I always make the analogy of sitting on an airplane, and if something, God forbid, happens and you need the oxygen mask, they always tell you first put the oxygen mask on yourself before your loved one, because if you're not healthy, taking care of your loved one becomes more difficult.
And the whole house of cards will fall down if something happens to you. If you're the one holding up the roof and something happens to you, it's not good for you. So we really we care so much about the family caregiver.
Mhm.
I mean, the progression of disease is the progression of disease, and we can't stop that, but we can certainly help the person that's doing the caregiving take care of themselves in many, many ways. And one of them is just knowing what's going to work for you. So now that we got the emotional part, because this is emotionally charged stuff, I can sympathize with you, but I can't empathize with what you're going through. So I can be a good ear, Lorri can be a good ear, but we don't exactly know what you're going through. And we want to hear it because honestly, this is an emotionally charged issue that is really, really difficult. Some families have kids that don't agree with the parents' decision, and that's emotionally charged. How we like to work is to try and get every member of the family on the same page as much as possible. Because it is a family disease. You've heard that before. It's not just one person gets it. Everybody that's attached to the family is touched in some kind of way, emotionally or physically or both. So if you choose to move into a community, we can certainly help you find communities that we are a complimentary service. We are a consultant. So any question that you have that you feel like you want an answer to, we have lots of them, but not all of them. So if you need to talk to us, call us and ask us a question. We might not have the answers, but we certainly will have resources to help you find some answers that you might not know. So a lot of people do not, the first step is, I don't want my person leaving the house. My significant other, my family member, they're not leaving the house. So a lot of people bring in home care, which is going to be talked about next month. So we're not going to address that here. Some people go to an adult day center, which is a day program for people with dementia. And some people choose that it's time to move. And so if you choose to move into an assisted living or personal care, because that's what in Pennsylvania, most of them are called, they're synonymous, personal care community, or a memory community, because not every person needs to go into memory care communities. Example, if you are a non-wanderer, which means you're not going to elope out the door and not wander out the door, or not walk into your next door neighbor's apartment and just walk in, and have like some social cues to know not to do that, you can just be in personal care. People in personal care can live their life in personal care even with memory issues. Lorri? Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
So in memory care, if you are a wanderist, if you are your hygiene isn't as good and you can't be in a dining room with other people because it might be embarrassing to you, the person who has dementia, they'd like to take you out of that situation so that you're not embarrassed in the situation. It's about keeping dignity for the person. If they feel like in a memory unit, you will keep your dignity more, they will talk to you about moving into a memory unit. But a lot of people with memory issues go into personal care. So with that being said, we'll talk about how do you select one that fits right for you. If you are their caregiver, close to you is a very important fact. I mean, we sort of need to have our loved one close to us if we can. If the community is the right community, it feels right when you walk in, it feels like other people look like your loved one. I shouldn't say that. What's the words I'm supposed to say, Lorri?
If the what
Not look like you.
not look like, but just feels right, I guess.
Feels right.
Comfortable.
If it feels comfortable,
and it feels engaging for you.
Feels engaging, feels comfortable, then that might be the community. And stay close to home if you can. If there's a community that's close to your home, and it, within 20 minutes or 30 minutes, that is a good community for you to be in. It's too far when you are the primary caregiver still, because that role is yours. It would be nice to be able to be close to your loved one. Lorri, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just even before the process of looking for communities, absolutely location is definitely a huge factor because you want it to be convenient for you to stop by or to be there if you really want, if you want to visit every day and stuff. It just makes it easier on you, all things being equal, as long as the quality of care is right for your loved one. But the other things to consider is, first of all, I would really encourage you to get a power of attorney signed as your loved one with dementia progresses. It gets confusing and gets difficult if they progress past the point of being able to make decisions of who their power of attorney is. And sometimes you have to bring in guardianship. It just gets a little messy. So I think that's the first thing I would look at. Maybe talk to an elder lawyer. We have plenty in our call them our toolbox that we offer to people, other lawyers that we vet, and we're happy to give that information out. So that's the first thing, is the elder attorney, and getting your power of attorney for financial as well as health care proxy just makes everything going forward easier. And then to also consider your finances, because finances are a really large part of what we look at when because as we all know, there's a lot. I'm sure as you're driving along, you see lots of communities as you drive. Your friends say, oh, I know this one, my mother was in this one, my aunt was in this one. But honestly, if you look at location, you look at what your finances are, and you look at what your needs are, your loved one's needs are, social, emotional, and physical, you really can narrow it down. We can really narrow it down, which makes it much less overwhelming. But the finances are an important thing because we want to make sure that you are taken care of. And so that's the other reason for seeing an elder lawyer, to protect yourself and your assets, as well as helping your loved one. And going from there, from the assets, the location, geographic location, and then your loved one's social emotional needs. As Mindy was saying, is personal care an appropriate choice? Is memory care an appropriate choice at this point when you start looking? And also with the finances, if you have home care, which most of our clients, often they start with home care, and that's a really good option for keeping them home longer. Sometimes the home care starts at 4 hours, which is affordable, and then it goes to 8. And as it increases, sometimes it becomes it exceeds the amount you would pay at a community, and sometimes that's the breaking point for some people going into communities. Mindy, back to you.
And speaking about finance, if anybody has a long-term care insurance policy, make sure that you're allowed to speak for your loved one early, because I've had clients say to me, I've called and they, even though I am the wife and the POA, they're not talking to me. So they won't talk to me unless, so if you can get you or a loved one or a family member, have the second person that can speak to the insurance company so that you can actually get something done. Long-term care insurance policies are unbelievably fantastic if you have one, but it's not, their goal is not to say, sure, have the money. Their goal is to stop you first and then decide. So if you could alleviate any pieces of this by getting your POA sent to the insurance company, so you're on the, so that you can speak to them while you're there, that is a great move too, as far as the finances go.
The other thing that you want to look at or consider, if your loved one was a veteran or you're a veteran, you might be eligible for veterans benefits. They and so you could look into that. It has to be that they served, they were an active, they don't have to be active, but they have to have served in the military at a time that a war was happening. So there's certain years for the Vietnam War, World War II. We're kind of getting past World War II into Vietnam and beyond. But then you could be eligible, which helps. It's up to like $1,300, I think, per month.
For a
It can help
spouse.
in assisted living for you, or if your spouse is deceased, sometimes the living spouse can also benefit from these. So that's something to consider as well. It's
And you
called
only have to be 1 day of active duty during a time of war, even if it doesn't mean you have had to have been in Vietnam. You could have been in, in military school here, but during a time of active war, you just have to be active and have an honorable discharge. And it's a very long, precarious form to fill out. So if either of you are or whoever is your loved one was, start early. because they also don't love to give away money, but if you can do all the proof to get it, you can get money. I think it's $2,300 for the veteran themselves and $1,300 or very close to that for the spouse of a veteran.
And the benefit is called AIDS and Attendance, AIDS and Attendance. Just so you know what that's called. That's what this particular benefit used for senior living communities for assisted living, personal care, and memory care. Anything else on that, Mindy?
No, I think those are the ways that places get paid for. So people say, how about my Medicare? And Medicare is a medical benefit. It does not take care of custodial care, which is what this is. You're bathing, feeding, making sure that people are safe. It doesn't make sense, but it's the way that it's set up. Medicare is for medical needs only. So if you went to a assisted living and had physical therapy there, it would pay for the physical therapy. So that gets paid for. But as far as your rent and your level of care, it does not get paid for.
Right.
So,
And just one more thing on long-term care policies. A lot of people that come to us say we don't have enough money to go into assisted living. We only get $2,000, $2,500 Social Security and pension. And once we start talking, if they say they have a long-term care policy, that is an asset, and that really can help with the care in a community and taking care of your loved one. So it's a great asset to have. So just remember that that adds on to your portfolio.
thank you. That's
Mm.
good. So here we talk about, so now we have, how do you get to a community? How do you select a community? It sort of has to feel right. It has to feel like this is a level of activity that you or your loved one would like. It has to, a lot of people say, my husband's a foodie. They need to have good food. We say, go for a meal there, see if it's good. Go during the time of day to go visit a place. Go at a time of day where people are active and see what they're doing. Look at their list of activities. Some will say, you know what? My spouse or my loved one never did an activity before in their life, and they're not going to start now. And they move into a community and they are playing bingo. Even if they're putting it on the wrong number, they're still active, involved in the community doing things. Jigsaw puzzles. My husband would never do a jigsaw puzzle, and all of a sudden, the first at the table doing the jigsaw puzzle. So you never know. We always say no first, and then people morph into other things after they have some dementia after a while. We never know. So one thing that we have a lot of questions that we like for people to ask when they go touring at places. And one of the most important things is to contact other families. See how, because we could tell you today to tomorrow that it's good. But if you talk to a family, even if it's a family that the community gave you, you probably could glom out some pieces of information, even if they say, oh, yes, we love it, but the laundry never gets done. They'll tell you things that you won't believe, but things that you will not hear all the time, but people will tell you how their actual feeling about the community is. So always ask for a reference from a community.
And just to add on to that, oftentimes when you're looking at communities, a lot of people go on to and they look at the community and they see the Google reviews on them. And that's one of the reasons that Mindy and I really recommend that you talk to current families, because sometimes they've had administration changes, sometimes a fair amount in these communities. And sometimes if they've had a management in the past that hasn't been as strong, people have experiences that are not as good, but this is what we do, or we have our eye, we're watching this all the time. And sometimes currently they have a good administration in there. So it's good to talk to current family members who are there to get the real skinny on what's going on.
Right. That's really important, because families say they have bad reviews, and then you look and it's the disgruntled employee who might have written their review and really skewed the whole thing. So you just want to make sure that they are current. That's very good. So you also want to know who is in charge, and who is in charge of the memory unit, and how readily are they available to you or your family? Who do you call? What's the chain of command? Who do you talk to? because a lot of people say, I don't even know who to talk to if I call. So up front, you want a name and a telephone number. And am I asking too much? Or is this a normal amount that I'm asking? Because a lot of people say, that family is too demanding. Is too demanding if you call 42 times in a day or once a day? It's your loved one. You're allowed to call. You want to hear somebody say to you, you can call me anytime. I mean, not 1,000 times a day, that would be much, but you would certainly like to know that who the person is that you can talk to that's going to be responsive to you. And meet the executive director. So the memory unit is not always the executive director. Meet them too. All of these players in a community play an active role in taking care of your loved one. And it's important that all of them are on the same page as you, that their focus is the resident that lives there. They have the same philosophy as you about how to care for people. And as they say in hospital speak, they're not looking for heads in beds, as they say in a hospital. They're looking to take care of your loved one the way the loved one is supposed to be taken care of.
Right. And one more thing, I think it's also important. I encourage people to also meet the head of nursing because
Absolutely.
and to go beyond the salesperson. I mean, that's what Mindy was saying, the executive director and people who are really even the activities director, because these are the people that are really caring for your loved one day to day. The initial person, the marketing person that you meet, is not the one who usually carries on once your loved one moves into a community. So it's important to meet the people who are really on the ground.
Although be it they're lovely, they are not the person taking care of your family. So they could sell you the sun, the moon, and the stars, and there's a couple of stars missing and half a moon. So you want to make sure that you are finding the people that actually do the care before you make a decision. It's hard to keep up with everybody in the industry. Lorri and I try really, really hard to know who has a new administrator, who has a new director of nursing, where did they come from? Do they understand dementia? So we try and keep up with it. Good resource for that, but nothing beats you meeting the person and feeling comfortable with them.
And you honestly, you know best where your loved one would fit in best. You can get a feel when you walk into a community that you just get the warmth, or maybe they have. Another thing I would say is a lot of people are drawn to new communities, ones with I call them chandeliers and hoopla, and they're beautiful. There are some communities I would love to move into. At the because they're decorated beautifully and stuff, but really it's about the care, especially when you're talking about your loved one with dementia, because it's really important. So I say chandeliers are always lovely, but look beyond there.
Yeah, no chandeliers. We're like big proponents for don't shop for chandeliers, shop for care, honestly, because that is the vital. Thanks, Laura. And what makes this community, what makes your community more separate than your competition? Like what sets you apart? It's always nice to know. And some might say, well, we have a nurse 24/7, and some might say we have our nurse leaves at 8 p.m. and there's not a nurse in the building, but there is a med tech or a certified nursing assistant. You want to know who's in the building 24/7 to take care of your loved ones. A lot of salespeople, marketing people, although we love them dearly, will talk to you about every activity that happens all day long, and they get excited about the activity. So they sell you activities. You might walk out of there and say, my loved one is never doing any of them. Why are they focusing on that and not the care? It's because I don't really know why, because I would focus on care, but a lot of people focus on activities and the care is secondary. So push the care to the forefront and the activities to the second front, because honestly, it's about how do we get cared for. If that's our opinion of caring for people in communities. You also want to know how many people are in your community. How many are in a memory care unit? Yesterday I was at a memory care unit. There's only 16 rooms. That's a very small memory care unit. Some people say I love that about it. Others will say, we need to, we want one that's 30 or above. You want to know, is there men? Is there women? Is it equal? Might want to know that. Ask every question that you can think of. None are too small, and none are, none are silly. There's not a thing is a silly question. And what are the staffings from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m.? Like, and what's from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m.? And what about overnight? What's it look like? Because there is a difference in all the shifts. We think there's the same amount of staffing, but the state of Pennsylvania tells you how much staff you need. And trust me, that's what they staff to. Usually not above, some yes, some no, but they have to have there is a standard that they must keep. We love a community that staffs above Pennsylvania standards, but is that always possible? And you have to make your decision. What does that work or not work? Also, is everything about my loved one charted? Is there a real plan for my loved one? So is there a toileting plan? I'll just use that as an example. Every 2 hours, can somebody come in and make sure they take my loved one to the men's room or the ladies' room? And if that's in the chart and it's not being done, you can go back and say, I need to see what the chart says. Was the real things are your rights to watch your loved one?
I would also recommend, if you choose a community for your loved one, to ask what the plan is to initiate them and make them feel welcome and comfortable coming in, whether they find people with interests similar to your loved ones that can take them on and, go with them to lunch or dinner or whatever. But sometimes having a plan in place can help with the transition. There's always a transition.
There's always a transition.
Mhm.
Sometimes in memory care communities only, they ask a loved one not to come for a couple of few days, because that's sometimes that's how they get to know, and that's really hard for people. So, ask, can I come tomorrow? Can I see my loved one tomorrow? And so there's people that have different ideas about how you get to see your loved one. And there's different people that sometimes you're the trigger to the loved one. So sometimes you're the one that's like, they're so nice to everybody else, and when they see me, they yell at me. And so there's always a trigger in a family. So you want to make sure that, that you're getting them taken care of the right way without you getting.
Other thing, just as you're touring memory care only communities, you might find that some memory care communities have showers in the people's rooms, in your loved ones' rooms, and some don't have them. They have communal shower rooms, and oftentimes to families that seems weird, and sometimes it feels like it's a deal breaker. But I do understand the philosophy of the memory care community saying it's sometimes dangerous to have a shower in someone's room because the water could come out, they could slip and fall. And so I would just make sure you look at the communal shower and make sure it's clean. And is there, what do they do in between showers and stuff to make sure it's clean for every resident that goes in there. But I don't think I would make it a deal breaker. I would look at the other things around it. You agree, Mindy?
Yeah, it was funny because yesterday when I did tour somewhere, other people, there was a communal shower. They called it the spa, which is fancy for communal shower, and it was very clean. But it felt there's still a toilet in the rooms, but just not a shower. And if they could explain to you that a shower, oftentimes, if somebody gets up in the middle of the night and they're still walking, they could turn on a shower and flood the room. They could go into the shower and slip. Things that you want to make sure that there's safety about. So it is all about being safe. And so that's that's the reason that some don't have them. The reason that new ones do have them is because the chandeliers say you need to have a shower too. So a lot of people now who are looking to see like something that looks nice is also looking to see if there's a shower in the room. So is it the only way that works? No, but they have them more often now when they're building new ones, because that's what children of aging adults are looking for when they go looking at communities. So when you do have a plan of care and they do chart the stuff, where is it? Is it somewhere that you can see? Are you allowed to look at what the chart says? Because they might say your husband's up all night and there's no charting that says that. So you are allowed to look at the chart. You are allowed to be a squeaky wheel, as long as you're respectful to the people that work there, of course. But you are allowed to know what's actually what the real, they should be charting everything that they see. And that is your right to look at that. And me personally, I would want to know what is actually going on in times that I'm not there. Some people want to know if laundry is included. In memory care, laundry is always included. And how often is it done? And did they lose their clothes? Do you put a label in them? All these little questions you will ask when you go, because you want to make sure that you have the clothes that you brought with you. They will clean your apartments or your studio apartments. They will do your laundry. They will change your sheets. They will make sure that all of those kinds of things are done. It's the other things that you want to make sure. Are we stimulating their brain? Is there maybe some music? Is there things getting them out of the room, or are they sitting in their room staring at a TV that they're not understanding anymore? You want to make sure that what does a typical day look like? And you want to know, you want to know what security is. You want to know, is it secure? Is my loved one, is there somebody, if they're going into personal care, is there someone, a concierge at the front desk 24 hours a day? If there is not, are the doors locked to the front of the building, or can they just walk out onto Ridge Pike? I'm making up names of places, but can they just walk out?
And also, what are the visiting hours for loved ones? Because you might have some specific hours that you can't because of your work schedule or whatever, and you want to make sure that it's flexible for you as well, for your schedule.
I love when communities say to me, this is their home and this is your home and you can come anytime you want. Because honestly, it's really good to show up at times that you wouldn't normally be there, maybe at 8 o'clock at night. Other people think, if I move into a community, can they come home for Christmas? And the answer is, of course. Of course they can. There might be a time in somebody's progression of disease that their anxiety has superseded the amount of time that they want to leave a community, and that can happen. But you can take your loved one out. It is not prison. It is a community to keep people safe. This is still your family. So a lot of people question me and say, do they drug them? Then the answer is no. They're not allowed to. They're not allowed to decide willy-nilly. He's not sleeping at night, I'm giving him 3 melatonin. They're not even, and that's over the counter. They can't even do that without a doctor's order and talking to a family. So your loved one will not be drugged, which I don't know where that came, like one threw over the cuckoo's nest or something. I don't know, where did that come from? But everybody always says, are they going to drug my loved one? And the answer is no, they are not allowed. That would be frowned upon by the federal government and the state government. You're not allowed to drug without a doctor's order and a discussion with the family. And that's important.
One of the questions that we hear often also is, I need to find a place that has skilled nursing. So there's this personal care and assisted living, and there's memory care, which is separate communities, sometimes within the same community, sometimes standalone. And then there is skilled nursing. Skilled nursing, honestly, only 2% of Americans need skilled nursing, because usually you need it if you have a feeding tube, or if what other wound care, maybe wound care, and that's over a certain level. But otherwise, honestly, and most people, people have a living will, and sometimes that's not even part of it, in terms of feeding tubes and things like that. But most of the times, people can age in place wherever they land in their assisted living. And you want to ask that question: could my loved one age here? Could my loved one end up here, towards the end of life? Do you have hospice that comes in here? What hospice agencies do you work with? And so if you want to look forward that way, but I wouldn't necessarily think that you need skilled nursing, because most of our clients actually don't end up needing skilled nursing, right, Mindy? Would you say?
Yes. The only
Mhm.
time that some people need skilled nursing is if their funds run out, because it is fee for service. So assisted living / personal care / memory care, they all are fee for service. And some people have funds that last 2 years. Some people have funds that last 3 years, and some people don't have enough funds. And in that case, Medicaid, and I won't go into the payment of Medicaid, but Medicaid will pay for skilled nursing and memory care and skilled nursing, as opposed to going into assisted living. It's just it's a different model, but it does work for some people that have no funds, and they are minimal funds and need to, and then it's a family discussion. So people say, my dad's 88. He has 2.5 years of funds, which would make him 91, 90, 91 and a half. Should we bring him to a community that he can have some joy in his days for now, and then move him into a nursing home 2.5 years after, when the funds run out? Or do we go to a less expensive place now, can spread it out to maybe 3.5 years, and then move into a nursing home? And that's something that a family needs to talk about amongst themselves, because we can't make that decision for you. But um, there are options. So, there's some families that really say, like, this is a really great place. I want to take my dad here, but I know in 2 years I might have to move him. That's going to be so hard to move you twice. And we find, Lorri, tell if I'm wrong, we find that a lot of people move more than once. We
When
hate
they're
it.
in a community, if they have to move from an assisted living or a memory care into the skilled nursing, if it's in the building, it's still a move. I call it a move is a move. It's a little more on your end because you're moving furniture down the road or to a different location, rather than in the building. But a move is a move is a move. The transition is still there, and clients decide what they want to do. Do they want that insurance policy that down the road they're going to have that Medicaid option, in the same place? And sometimes that's important to them because that's um, that makes them feel more comfortable. And other people say, you know what, this is a philosophical discussion that I just want my mother or father or husband, spouse, or whatever, a brother or sister, to have just a great couple of years. And I'm going to do that. And then 6 months, as things start dwindling down, as their finances start dwindling down, we'll make the plan to transition. Usually the community will also help you find that. But um, what we do find is that a lot can happen in a few years. So, if you look at your loved one 3 years prior, probably a lot of changes, have occurred before you make a decision to go to a community. And in the preceding 3 years, things happen. So, you don't know, we just can't predict.
Right.
So
And
it's
I don't,
really,
I don't think that anybody that gets a diagnosis last week from the neurologist of mild cognitive impairment is moving today. It is a process, and you can have mild cognitive impairment. You can go steady, 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 and then have a decline. Nobody's rushing to do this. This is something that is heart-wrenching, emotional, a whole family oriented. So you need to, like, think about this. This is not something that willy-nilly people just go and say, okay, we're moving. It's a process. And be really planful about it, because it really is important. So some people say, what is there room in these places? Can we find it? I mean, how long do we have to start looking in advance? As personal care, assisted living, memory care is fluid. People are leaving, people are coming, people are going to nursing home, people pass away. So it is fluid. If you, there will be somewhere for you to move to when you need. So don't, do I put a deposit for 3 years from now? You don't need to do that, because in 3 years from now, we don't even know if the same nurse is going to be there, the administrator is going to be there, if if they sold to another company. We don't know any of that. So think about what you want, but you don't need to act on it that moment. Like, do I have to put a deposit? Unless you're moving into independent living at a very large continuing care retirement community where you need to have a deposit down, then you don't need to do that.
Yeah, I just want to add on to that, what Mindy was saying with the continuing care retirement community. It's called CCRC. Some people choose to, usually they have a large amount of money that you buy into, and then you can age into the community. And I think what I would recommend, if you have someone that has been diagnosed with dementia, depending where they're at on their journey, some communities of CCRCs will accept someone with um, cognitive impairment, but it kind of depends where they are on their journey. So sometimes they do MOCA tests, they do different tests to say, and different communities have different criteria of what they'll accept. So you have to look into that. We can help you with that, but sometimes that's a journey in itself. So
Right.
you
Right.
might want to do that earlier than later.
Right. And I watch the internet of Facebook, and people are saying, where do I take my father? And people put all of these names of places. My mother was here, my grandfather was here, don't send them there. I cringe every time I read these, because everybody has their own opinions. Everybody has their own finances. So they might pick the most expensive place in the world, and that is not, don't think there isn't a home for your loved one. I guess that's the point. There is a home for your loved one, even if it's even if you don't have $1 million and $7,000 a month, whatever it is that you think you need. There are places that are less expensive that take really nice care of their residents. And by the way, we hate to call it facilities, so I'm not doing that. It's community. It took me, in the years I've been doing this for 20 years, I feel like I said facilities, they're communities. It builds community. It is not a warehouse, as people would say. It is a community, and people treat each other like they are family in these communities. So
And that's a very good point. A lot of people say they think of communities as the skilled nursing homes of their grandparents, of their parents, or whatever, where it looked a lot different, and it was frankly depressing. And if you walk into some of these places, a lot of them are not depressing. They're anything but that, and they do provide engagement and community and love and hopefully good care. That's most important.
most important.